All right. Hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So thanks very much for being here for the secrets of success, or why 2.5 million people love the success community and how you can hack it. So what we're going to do today is really take a quick tour of the success community, but it's also a bit of a behind the scenes tour because we'll be looking at some of the areas to get a kind of a feel of some of the best practices and maybe some tips and tricks on how to use each of those areas. And then for each area, we'll also be putting out a kind of a little secret or a mini hack. So something you can do that maybe changes how you approach using that feature, or maybe even how you approach thinking about that feature on success. Before we get into that, let me tell you who I am. I'm Chris Edwards. I'm a solution architect for Mavens. We're a consulting partner in the healthcare and life science industry. Before that, I spent a lot of time as a Salesforce administrator. So in both of those roles, the community was very important to me because it's somewhere that I could go to learn about features, but not just what the release notes tell you, but actually what real people, real users are telling you, and the kind of things that they're asking and wanting to do with the features. So that's why I like hanging around on the community, and I'll hopefully share some of the reasons for that as we go through and kind of what I like to get out of it. Now, although it's just my name on the slide and just me up here today, I did have a little bit of help. Specifically, someone was saying that hack is a big thing. Peter Coffey mentioned it earlier. So hacking, he suggested I get hacking in. So I have to give some thanks to my friend Vladimir for that. Let's see if he pops up again at any point in this presentation. All right, so let's get started. We'll start with an introduction. So what is success? What do we mean when we talk about the success community? Essentially, it's a place that Salesforce users can go to find help, to ask questions, make suggestions, and collaborate. And that collaboration is with not just Salesforce employees, but partners and very importantly, your peer group, your customers as well, Salesforce's customers. Most people access it at success.salesforce.com, but you can get to it through the Salesforce Admin app and the Salesforce Events app as well. And what are people doing once they get to success? Well, one thing is that you can use this as a kind of a portal to find help and training. So read documentation, contact support, get kind of some information on knowledge articles. But the areas that we're going to be looking at today are these. We'll look at the answers community, the collaboration area, the idea exchange, the known issues log, and we'll finish off with the user group listings as well. But there's one concept and one word that I'm going to keep coming back to throughout this presentation, which is this concept of a community. And really what it means for me in practice is that the success community does two things for you through being a community. The first is the interactions you have on success tend to be very authentic. It isn't kind of sales or marketing led like some of the release notes and the events maybe that Salesforce put on. This is the real voice of real customers. So the interactions you have are very authentic and they come from real world experiences. The second aspect is that those interactions also tend to be very quick. If we think about answers, which is going to be the first area we look at in a moment, essentially what we're doing here is rather than raising a case and trying to get Salesforce to help us where the case gets assigned to one person, they take some time and eventually you get your answer. Really what we're doing on success is we're kind of outsourcing that support to the community of 2.5 million people. So we'll keep coming back to that theme, but let's get straight on now. We talked about answers, so let's dive in there first of all. So what is answers in the success community? What we're going to do first is talk about what it is. What do you do there? And basically, this is your forum to ask questions relating to most areas of functionality on Salesforce. There's some things like some core development questions that maybe wouldn't be suited to the answers community. There are other places to ask those. But essentially, if you've got a question on Salesforce, something's not going right, or you want to know how to achieve something, go and ask your question. So who is it that answers them? It's the community. And again, it's about this kind of outsourced model. We're talking to a community of 2.5 million people here. And the fact that the community answers, to me, is really distilled in two very important and I think very impressive statistics. So 100% of all the questions that get asked on answers receive a response. They receive an answer. And I think the next statistic is even more impressive. So how can you be more impressive than 100%? Because 98% of those questions are answered by the community. Salesforce themselves only need to go in and respond to the 2%. So Salesforce are benefiting. They don't have to have so many support reps. But obviously the people the people asking those questions are benefiting because they're getting answered quicker as well. So with each of these areas, we'll look at what it is. and we'll look at a few kind of tips on how to use it. So how to use answers best. Search it first. You know, there are a growing number, a huge number of questions that have already been asked, and it may be that what you need to find out, that knowledge has already been shared and the answer already exists. So have a quick look. That said, the sheer volume of stuff that's on answers now is rapidly growing and is quite daunting. So if you don't find it, go ahead and ask your question anyway. And when you do ask your question, try to be very specific. So if you have, you've got a problem with a data import, so the data import is erroring, don't just tell us that. You know, tell us details. What are you trying to import? What object? What tool are you using? Is it an insert? Is it an upsert? Is it an update? Let us know, you know, are all the records failing or just some of them failing? We cannot access your orgs. The people that are on the community answering questions, we're not Salesforce. We can't get into your environment, and therefore, you know, the more information you can give us, the better. This one goes hand in hand with that really, which is around giving us context as well. So we won't know, for example, what Salesforce edition you're on. And the solution that we propose may well differ depending on that edition, so tell us that. And also other contexts can be things like, what have you already tried? So say something is magically happening and you don't know what is causing it. You could tell us that you've already checked your workflow rules and it's not there. That gives us a really quick way of ruling something out so we can go straight into what else it could be that's going wrong. And finally, just be appreciative. You know, understand that this is a community that's serving your needs, and you know, we don't work for Salesforce. One of the ways you can be appreciative is to mark a response as being the best answer. So when you have an answer that gets a question that gets answered, mark that response as being the best answer. That's going to do a few things. It's going to give the person that provided that response the credit. It's also going to close down the discussion and show people that the question has been answered. So it helps to keep the community very, very clean in that regard. And also, it means that anyone that's looking for that answer in the future can more easily find the problem or the answer that solved that problem. So that's what it is, and a bit about how you use it. Now, for each of these areas, I'm going to focus on one kind of key secret or what we call the hack. So the hack for answers is a pretty simple one, but it's kind of a different take on it, which is that you will learn a lot more by answering the questions of others than you will by asking your own. And I've got a kind of a process diagram to show you what I mean by here. So it's very easy to think of it like this. We have an asker, we have an answerer. The asker requests information that answerer already has, and the answerer grants that information, and this person is the only one to benefit from that interaction. That is sometimes true, but in the vast majority of cases, and I know this from personal experience, I learned a lot of what I know how to do now through answering other people's questions. Tends to go a little bit more like this. Help, I need to do this. The answerer might know a piece of the answer, but they may need to go and find other information from the outside world. A help doc, a blog, watching a video, or even just going into an org and experimenting with that feature themselves. So they benefit. They gain information from this transaction as well. But often, there is more than one person that contributes to an answer. Sometimes people have different approaches to solve the same need. And in that instance, quite often, those answerers benefit from the knowledge of each other as well. Ultimately, that knowledge still goes downstream to the person that needs it, but there are always, or virtually always, more than one person that stands to benefit from that answer. So we could have someone that is looking at that discussion, watching it in real time, waiting for the answer because they need the same thing. And we can have someone that maybe doesn't need that now, but 6 months down the line, they have the same problem. They go, they search by keywords, they find that answer, and immediately the problem is solved without them even having to ask it. So that's a little bit more about how it kind of tends to work in the real world. So I think if anyone here is looking to upskill on Salesforce and learn new things, then I would absolutely recommend Trailhead, of course, to learn some of the basics around each area. But the difference between Trailhead and answering other people's questions, this is all real world. You will get real scenarios that people are actually trying to implement this product or this solution. So this is where you kind of learn a lot of the implementation tips rather than just what is this feature. So the second area we're going to look at is collaboration. Hello?
Can I ask one very quick question about it?
Why not? You're going to need the microphone, though. You're going to need the microphone.
So, do you actually use the answers to search for things, or do you just use Google?
Well, Google is going to get you to answers ultimately if it's Google is going to allow you to search multiple sources, right? So you're going to get what's on Answers, you're going to get things from Stack Exchange, from the developer community, the help docs. So Google is absolutely great for aggregating that kind of information. If you're the kind of person like me, and we'll come onto this in the next area, that kind of spends time in the community even when things are going right, you're naturally in that environment and you know what area to go to find when things are going wrong. So yeah, there's nothing to stop you using wider resources to find the answer. But if you're already in the community, then certainly one of the good things about the Answers is you go there if you struggle to find the answer on Google, because maybe it's an edge case. A lot of the times, the same problem can be described in a almost infinite number of ways. So that's why we say search Answers, but ultimately you may need to post your question anyway. So moving on to collaboration. So this is probably the only area of success that really outpaces Answers in terms of the pure volume of interactions and conversation that happens. So why is that? Because essentially the collaboration area of success is Chatter, is where we go to collaborate, and we all like to chat. So it's a very busy area. Being Chatter, if you're familiar with that Salesforce product, it shares the model of profiles, feeds, and ultimately groups is what we're going to spend a lot of this area talking about. So groups on success, they often come, some of them are kind of large-scale groups like Getting Started or Premier Success, where, mass market, if you like, there's a lot of different kinds of conversations happening in those groups. Some of them, though, are down to like a feature or a role type or even an industry or a kind of a concept. So this link will show you a curated list of some of the featured groups that are being featured at the moment. So take a look there if you're looking to get started with your groups. Once you join groups, there's a few things just to be aware of in terms of how collaboration works and certainly how it differs from Answers. And one of those things is that this is freeform. This tends to be more discussion-based. So Answers is, I have a specific need, I would like a specific answer. Collaboration is much more along the lines of, what do you think about this? What are the best practices here? It tends to be more open-ended discussions that, as the name suggests, really invite collaboration rather than a closed, okay, it's solved now, thanks very much. And it's not just text. So as well as sharing text, we can do things like post links, share files, we can give thanks. There's a thanks badge here on the screen that you'll see. So we're not really confined to just purely text-based conversations. Once you join a number of groups, I would definitely suggest paying attention to your email settings. So essentially, when you're in a group, you have a number of choices about how you want to receive information or digests from what's happening in that group. And it basically goes all the way from someone maybe over this side that has complete fear of missing out, and they want everything that gets posted in that group to go straight into their email because they want to see all the discussions as soon as they start happening. Right the way over to someone that says, this group, I just want to receive one weekly digest. Maybe show me I think it comes out Sunday, show me what's happened in that group, and I can review it kind of asynchronously, if you like. Now, we talked about joining multiple groups. One of the things that I think a lot of people tend to maybe get wrong, that might be too strong a term, but tend to do on the success community and collaboration that I personally would rather they didn't, is that they can post the same question into multiple groups multiple times. And that does two things. It makes the community quite messy because the same conversation is happening in disparate places. And it also means that there's no one kind of source of truth on what the outcome is on that discussion or what the consensus is. So let me give you an example to sort of make this a bit more concrete. So let's say I am a new administrator and I need some help on a sales report. I'm new, so I could post to the Getting Started group. I'm an admin, so I could post to the Button Click Admins group. It's a report, so I could post to an analytics group. It's regarding sales, so I could post to some kind of sales community if I could find one. That's great. You are doing the right thing to seek knowledge from all of those sources because they will all be able to have an input. But don't post multiple times into each. Create one post, whether it's in one of those groups or on your profile, and @mention all of the others. So take one of those groups, post it into there, and @mention the others. What that's going to mean, similar to sharing in a way, is that the conversation then will, even if people contribute to it through different kind of input channels, the conversation will all appear in one place with its full context. So the secret or the hack for collaboration is this, that it's a great place to find the lesser spotted product manager. So if you have a particular question on a certain product or a certain feature, then try and find a group. A lot of the products, Salesforce products, have groups that revolve around that feature. And a lot of the times, the owners of those groups are going to be the product managers, the people that own those products and know them best. So post your question in there. It's not always going to be those that answer. It isn't a direct route to the PM community. But quite often, they will pick it up and they will give you some input that maybe not a lot of other people could. And there's a few product managers that I know that are particularly good at that, and some of their faces appear here, and I'm sure they'll love that when they see it. Okay, we're going to move on to a third area, which is the idea exchange. This is probably my favorite area of success, actually, and the reason for that is that you often hear Salesforce talk about the voice of the customer, and this is where that voice is heard loudest. So what is the idea exchange? Essentially, in very simple terms, it's a suggestions box. It's somewhere you can go to make suggestions on a new feature, a potential improvement, something you want to see that's changed. And you can go not just to post your own ideas, but very importantly to comment and vote on the ideas of others. And we'll come on to the concept of voting in a little while. So that means then that if there's a particular idea you have, you can add your weight to that discussion without needing to cause duplicates. That takes me on to how you would best use the ideas community. And this one is similar to what we said on answers. Search first. But on ideas, it's really, really important. So if you have a particular functionality or a change or a request that you want to see, be very diligent as you have the time to be, to see if that request already exists and see if you can start piling onto that post rather than creating your own. And the reason that it's particularly important in the idea exchange is twofold. Firstly, the ideas can only be merged manually. It's a bit of a process to get that done. But probably the main reason is this magic number. So 2,500 points is the benchmark, is the kind of the goal line, if you like, to get an idea over. At that point, it is guaranteed a response, or it's guaranteed to be reviewed by Salesforce's product management. And it's not as unattainable as it might first seem, because every positive vote is worth 10 points. So 250 positive votes will get you over that line. So if you have an organization of 100 people, they're all going to have Salesforce logins, ask them to vote for it, you're nearly halfway there. And throughout the life cycle of an idea, you'll see various idea statuses. So it will tell you whether the idea is under consideration or is on the roadmap. So you'll get an idea of how close to the finish line that idea is. So that really important for me is make sure you search, try and find it, try different combinations of keywords, and if you can find it at all, then add your idea, add your voice to that idea. All right, so what's the hack? The hack, or the secret here, is really that Salesforce want your votes, but they want them for more reasons than what is just obvious. But let's start with the obvious one first of all. We said that this was a suggestions box. It's not, though, a locked box in the corner of a room that you hardly ever open, and if you do open it, you don't read it, and if you do read it, you don't implement it. This is really the way that Salesforce prioritize and drive their product development roadmap. So that's why it's important for the obvious reason. The second reason, less obvious, but I personally believe it's a real factor here, is that it's not just, those idea points aren't just driven, they're not just used to drive what the roadmap is, but actually to validate the existing roadmap. So every time a vote gets added, there are more points that product manager can retire when the feature comes to life. And that's one of the metrics. We see every release, we've retired this many thousand idea points. So it really helps Salesforce to actually get extra credit, if you like, for the features that they're going to deliver. So there's two examples I'll give here. If there's any admins in the room, I'm sure some of you are, the Process Builder was a huge thing that came out, and it meant admins could automate a lot of different processes. But when it was first released, it wasn't truly bulk proof. If you threw 100,000 records at it, occasionally it's going to fall over. So Salesforce, in my belief, is Salesforce were always going to fix that. That was never going to be there. That's not a real prime-time product if that's going to be there. But obviously, it generated a lot of ideas. A lot of people wanted it to be bulkified. They wanted it to be bulk safe. So actually, then the Salesforce message becomes, oh, by the way, here's an issue that we fixed. to actually, we've listened to the voice of our customers and we've really delivered on what they wanted. So it's just a different kind of marketing message. The other example, there was the sixth most highly voted idea of all time was about to be delivered. And Salesforce actively went on to Success and asked people to vote for it because they didn't want to retire as the sixth most voted idea. They wanted to retire as the fifth most because there's a better marketing message there. All right, so the fourth area we've got is around known issues. This is an area that I think is underused on Success, and I think it's one of the least exploited areas. What is it? Well, in simple terms, it shows you any unexpected behavior that's currently happening at the application level. That is different from trust, which tells you any unexpected behavior at the platform level. So what is going wrong from an application, from a software perspective, if you like, is all listed on known issues. And these will be issues that affect some or all customers. Now, this is deliberately vague because it's really up to you as the guardian of your org to work out whether it's something that impacts you. So how would you do that? Find a known issue, and you're going to find not just a brief description of what's going wrong or what the behavior is, but you'll see some steps to reproduce it and even some workarounds if that's known as well. There's an is it fixed widget here that's going to show you on your particular environment whether that's still a problem. So it'll help you kind of get a framework of an idea of where you're at, whether it's affecting you or not. There's a reported by metric, which is just a number. How many people have clicked this button to say this issue affects me? Now, that is only ever going to be representative. It's not, if two people have said that it affects them, likelihood is it's quite a kind of a niche issue. If 200 or 300 have clicked that button, you know it's something you really need to be paying a bit of attention to. So click the button yourself if it's an issue that affects you. It will add you to that number, and it will tell you when the problem is fixed as well. And the hack on known issues is that we tend to be very reactive with known issues. So we go to known issues when something is going wrong and we want to find out more information. Now, I kind of relate that to finding out that our house is on fire when the place is already burnt down. So if we could be more proactive, that is where the real secret, the kind of the hidden power of known issues is. So I don't know if you know IFT, if this then that. It's a web app, a recipe building app effectively. You create a recipe that connects one channel, in this case known issues, with another channel. In my case, I have it going to my email. And then anytime a known issue gets added, I receive an email with a brief summary of what's going wrong. The majority of them I can disregard. But if it's something I know that my org uses or needs, then I'm going to pay attention to that. All right, our last area is user groups. Now, I don't feel the need to talk a lot of detail about user groups because you're here at an in-person event today. So the chances are hopefully you understand the value. But just to quickly run through, these are regular meetups, anywhere between once a month, once a quarter. And they are customer-led. So again, it goes back to that concept of authenticity. The voices you hear at user groups will be mainly customers. It's customer-led, so you're not going to be talked to in a sales and marketing voice. You should really be there to be informed. How this relates to Success, you might be asking. There's a list of all the user groups that are currently active. So visit Success, get an idea of what's in your area, and importantly, join one or join more than one. In London and many other cities, we're lucky enough to have multiple user groups. For different audiences, there might be an overlap there between what you need. So use it to learn, use it to grow. Part of that growth is going to be from expanding your network. So maybe you'll find your next employer, your next employee, maybe an AppExchange partner that you could get some use out of. And importantly, have fun. These are informal events. In my experience, you tend to beer and pizza always helps things a bit more fun. Talking of which, what's the secret? Free pizza. Now, that might not seem impressive, but pizza is delicious and free is the best price that I know. No, that's a bit of a cop-out. The real secret is to have your say and to volunteer. So have your say. What do I mean by that? People like me that run user groups, we put on content that we think you're going to like. But unless you tell us what you want to see, unless you kind of help shape the roadmap of our content, then we can't be truly sure about whether we're giving you what you need. The volunteer part, there might be some areas, some topics that actually you know quite well, and you could deliver a presentation to that audience better than any of the organizers could. That is quite a scary thing for a lot of people that attend user groups. But you can start small. You can do a kind of a 3, 4, 5 minute segment. And if speaking isn't your thing, then maybe you could volunteer to help sponsor the event or hold it in your venue. So really what we're saying here, you only get out what you put in. All right, so that's all we have. So just to summarize what we've learned, so the Success community, simple message, it's there for you, use it. be proud to be a member of a community of 2.5 million. You know, there's a strength in numbers there, but also try and stand out from those numbers by knowing some of the hacks and some of the best practices that we've talked about today. So be thorough, be considerate when you use answers. Join the discussion and try and doorstep those product managers in collaboration. Throw your voting weight around. You know, don't be afraid to tell Salesforce what's wrong or what could be better. Use known issues to your advantage by trying to be proactive with those as much as you can. And of course, find that local user group and keep the collaboration going offline as well. And one final message I'll just leave you with, which is to participate and give back wherever you can, because these communities only thrive when people give back. That can be as little as voting on an idea or as big as presenting at a user group. So I hope this has helped you to go out there and be not only a good community member, but also an informed one. And Vladimir and I would love to take any questions if there are any. This should be animated, because what I thought is if there aren't any questions, at least you could have something nice to distract you and maybe not ask any questions. There's a question anyway, all right. Cheers, Vlad. You're going to need the microphone so the recording gets it. But
any tips for developer communities? There's something different for developers.
I think there's some groups on success that relate quite well to some of the more technical aspects, but ultimately success tends to be more geared around citizen developers or configurators. So there's a development community that's very strong, especially on the answer side. Stack Exchange is nearly always, in my experience, the right place to get more technical answers on kind of code-based questions. But we don't shut people out. Come and we can help shape the discussion from a more technical angle.
Hiya. Probably not uniquely, I've got a lot of Salesforce logins, some company ones, customer ones,
Yep.
personal ones, Trailhead ones.
Yep.
So obviously with this stuff, you want to be kind of federating in from one customer, from one Salesforce account, I guess.
Yeah.
Best to use the same one as your Trailhead? Best to use your own one?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it is a personal developer account that you sign up with that you are going to maintain ownership of, then that's the best way to approach it. Now, so if you're not on the community and you're going to join, then I would absolutely go with a developer edition account. If you're already there, it is possible to do what's called repointing, where you move things onto a developer account. It's, again, similar to merging an idea. It's a very manual process. We have to stop, I'm being told. But I'm going to stick around if you have any more questions. But thanks very much.